Hey, somebody needs to wax the bowstring. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. The Professional Noticer, sponsored this week by WisdomHarbor.com. Today, schools all over America are finding WisdomHarbor.com's one-of-a-kind streaming service to be the perfect, low-cost, high-quality educational tool for their students. Wisdom Harbor's stated responsibility is to create the next greatest generation, starting with your hometown and your school system. For less than $3 a month per teacher, 7 cents a day, classrooms have access to original content only found on WisdomHarbor.com that teaches, entertains, and builds character in young people while creating conversations between young people and the adults in their community. Utilizing video, audio, and the written word, content is delivered in small bites by Grammy winners, CEOs, comedians, chefs, best-selling authors, and Hall of Fame speakers. There are even guitar lessons from an award-winning songwriter. Check it out today and join your friends and neighbors who are already a part of WisdomHarbor.com. And isn't it time your schools got involved? WisdomHarbor.com, creating America's next greatest generation, starting with your family. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. We get somebody who has observations and some answers. Man, that's just double dipping. So we're excited today. We have with us today, and I think this is the first time I've ever used this description, but today we have outdoor royalty. I mean, I'm telling you, we have a guest who is in the lineage of royalty, and you already know her father. But Eva is very unusual. She is steeped in the outdoors, hunting, fishing. She married a professional hockey player. She is a celebrity in her own right, the author of Taking Aim, and she is my two sons, she is their favorite outdoor celebrity. So please welcome Eva Shockey Brent. Hey, Eva, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You know, my sons, when your dad, Jim, was on the show, they were like, wow, you had Jim Shockey. They said, man, the only thing better than that would be to get Eva. And I said, well, she's actually going to be in there. No way. So we've got your book at home, and the boys, for a long time, the boys were showing me, look, she got a moose. Look, she got a bear. I mean, so I'm up on what you have done. Where are you today?
I am in mountains of North Carolina, and it is so beautiful. I was just saying before we went live, I have 3 little kids that have been told, do not come in this office. A dog just came in. We're like, I'm doing the momming with the podcasting, and we're just going to hope that it goes.
Hey, I want to just right off the bat let everybody know. Just mark down or bookmark evashockey.com, because that's it's a beautiful site, and you'll find a lot of stuff on there. I got lost in the blogs, and so just it's great stuff, and your marketplace is on there. But I want to know, how did you? I mean, your dad is a legend, and your dad's book is out now, and it's awesome. Call Me Hunter. I've had it for a couple of weeks, but I just finished it a couple of days ago, and just now I'm talking to my friends about it. It's like, man, have you read this? This is very unusual.
It's good. It's not what you would expect. I mean, he's a world-renowned hunter, arguably probably, I would say, the best hunter in the world. So everyone expected him to come out with a book that was sort of more of an autobiography. And there were a few people at the beginning, because I was on the first stop of his book tour, and they would have it in their hand going, I really thought this was going to be a little different. But now that people have had a chance to read it, it is one of the most incredible books I've ever read, to the point where I'm almost a little irked that my dad can write that well. And in characters, there's a couple of characters that are actually quite scary. And I'm like, I don't know how that comes out of him. But yeah, he's on his book tour on the final leg, and the book has done amazing. And we're really proud of him. We watched him work on that for years. And it's pretty cool to see it all coming together and people realizing how talented he is. Aside from
it's a thriller. Call Me Hunter, by Jim Shockey. That is just awesome. So other than just your natural being Jim and Louise's daughter, how did you get involved in the outdoors and in the outdoor industry? Because you didn't hunt growing up.
I did not. So the backstory, which is kind of a weird way to grow up, I guess, now in hindsight. At the time, I had no idea. My mom was a vegetarian ballerina. I don't know if you and my dad got into this story or not. My mom was a vegetarian ballerina, model, dancer, actress, like actually very well known, did movies with like Tom Selleck and Christy Allen and all kinds of people. But she married my dad, who at the time was an antique dealer. So he really did the whole bait and switch with her. He was an antique dealer, and within a year turned into a full-time hunter. And that was so a vegetarian married to this hunter. And that was my upbringing. She soon was no longer a vegetarian, but she has remained my whole life. She was the most graceful, feminine, never hunted, would save a fly and set it free outside, and married to my dad, who's this rugged mountain man. So I grew up in this very bizarre juxtaposition of like role models, and they were both incredible, but in very different ways. And so I did not hunt my whole life, like all through my youth. We were from a small town in Canada. So we didn't have outdoor television, social media, thank goodness, did not exist back then.
Right.
And so I just didn't know my mom was the opposite of a hunter. So in my mind, hunting was for men, and, dance was for girls and all the girl things. And my dad would invite me to go hunting, but it just never felt, I remember thinking, people are going to think I'm a boy if I go hunting. Like that was just what I had no idea. So I said no my whole life. But growing up, because of my dad's hunting, my parents gardening, the whole field to table lifestyle, all we ate was wild game or fish that he caught or got food from the garden that they grew. And so when I went to university for the first time in my life, I had to go buy meat from the grocery store. And I remember I went to university in Australia because I love adventure and wanted to go really far. So I went to the store and had to buy meat, and I had to ask what to buy and, what cuts it was and all this. And I had no idea. And I remember thinking, I do not like purchasing meat and not knowing where it comes from. So that was the point where I asked my dad to take me hunting and teach me how to hunt, to fill my freezer. And I definitely did not foresee it turning into, 15 years later, my whole entire life and career and livelihood. But I did it for such I would say, innocent reason I wanted to be self-sustainable and, see the whole circle of life and put in my freezer and eat what I hunted myself. And now it's incredible, really, just that it's turned into everything else along the way.
That is awesome. And our freezers are full of game too. That's what we eat. Some of my friends who are not familiar with that and that lifestyle are kind of amazed when I tell them that like venison has twice the protein of beef and zero fat. And so, it's just healthier. And to know where it comes from and to take care of it yourself. We don't even send it to a processor. We take care of it ourselves. So
it tastes better. When people say that they don't like the taste of wild game, I always say, well, it depends how it was taken care of, where it was, how old it was, how long it sat out for. Just like if you were to do that with a cow or for beef or whatever, like it depends how it was done. And I think some people have had bad experiences with that for whatever time in their life. But I don't want to toot my own, but like I can cook most meals with wild game, and I would say it does not taste gamey, and it just depends how you do it. And like you said, it's very lean, so you have to add some fat in, put some olive oil, that kind of thing. But I think it's the best tasting meat. Moose, elk, that's pretty much what we live on at our house.
Yeah. I always say that because people that say, well, it's kind of gamey. I'm like, look, it's how you take care of it. Because if somebody killed a cow and rode around with it on their hood in the sun for a day and a half and then clean it, you wouldn't like the steaks either.
Exactly. That's not what the grocery store does because they know better. But us,
Right.
If you're a hunter and you know how to take care of it and make sure it kind of gets to the fridge as soon as it needs to, I've never had a bad experience with wild game. And I've had a lot of people turned on to wild game because we'll share the meat or we'll share the cooking or the summer sausage or whatever. And it's pretty funny to see people be like, oh, this is, this is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was the first time that you were kind of, because you are when I say you're outdoor royalty, you're an outdoor celebrity. For those who don't know, Eva was on the cover of Field and Stream, and you guys have got to be the only family who's the dad and the daughter separately have been on the cover of Field and Stream. That's just amazing to me.
I don't want to throw him under the bus, but my dad has never been on the cover of Field and Stream.
Okay, you just
let's just clarify that so that Jim Shockey. No, I'm just kidding. But
well, he's been on the cover of a lot of magazines. Maybe not Field and Stream. Maybe not the high water mark of the outdoor magazine market.
Yeah, he still has some work to do in the outdoor industry. I was on the cover of Field and Stream, which still amazes me. It's still something that people bring up all the time, and it just was such an honor. I was the first woman on the cover, the only woman on the cover ever to be on the cover other than Queen Elizabeth. So it was
seriously.
It was, and at the time, so my husband, you mentioned it before, my husband was a professional hockey player, and at the time he was at the end of his hockey career, so he was playing over in Russia. So we lived in Magnitogorsk, Russia. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, most people have not. A small town. We lived there for 2 seasons. And at the time, Field and Stream, I think it was my agent, said, Field and Stream wants you to come do a cover shoot. And I would, growing up in the outdoor industry, Field and Stream is royalty. Field and Stream is on every shelf, every counter that we have. And I was all the way in Russia, so it wasn't super convenient. And I was kind of like, this can't be real. And I was like, there's no way this is going to be the cover shoot. And they're like, yeah, they want it for the cover shoot. So I flew 36 hours to New York City for this shoot. I had, at the time, I was hunting a lot. And so I couldn't bring my hunting gear back and forth from Russia every month when I was flying. So it sounds bizarre now thinking back, but I had my hunting bag and I would just ship it from place to place to where my next trip was, and my bow, and then I would get there and pick it up, hunt with it, and then ship it to the next trip because I had no other way to do it. And so I flew from Magnitogorsk to New York City. I rerouted my hunting bag and my bow and sent them to New York City to the studio. And I got there and they had my stuff hanging up. They had steamed all my dirty hunting clothes. I was so embarrassed. And
they're still dirty, but they weren't wrinkled.
Yes. And all these New York City people, they were super nice, but had never seen a bow in their life. I didn't know I was going to be doing this. So it really was my hunting pants had mud all over them and they steamed everything. And I showed up and they said, oh, we've never had anyone come without an entourage. And I'm like, I don't have an entourage. It's just me. And so I did the photo shoot and flew back to Magnitogorsk, 36 hours. And I didn't see the magazine for months because we were in Russia. And finally, my husband's team made the playoffs. And so one of his teammates' dads from Canada, he flew over and brought me a copy of the magazine and he handed it to me in the lobby of the Russian hotel. And I just remember crying, thinking it actually is on the cover. I cannot believe that. So it was really cool. But what was really cool, other than the fact I got to do that, was it as the first female, other than the Queen, representing hunting. And I think the issue was called What's Next? And it was just talking about the growth of the female demographic in the outdoor industry and how it's the fastest growing demographic. And I got to represent that. And I know I'm not the only one. And while it's very kind that you're saying hunting royalty, I was born into a family that was just very lucky to hunt and use it as a job. But I got to represent all the other girls that were looking at this and saying, oh, we can hunt and she can hunt, and we're the next up and coming thing. And I thought that was very cool and a very big responsibility at the same time. But yes, I was very honored that they picked me to be that.
Well, I was always, I mean, I've known who Jim Shockey was just for decades, and your dad is not only, he's probably the best known outdoor guy there is, certainly the most recognizable. I mean, because that cowboy hat and that kerchief, man, I mean, that's Jim Shockey.
He's got his brand, and he does it well. He never really falls off that. That's just who he is. He loves to hunt, loves the outdoors, loves the people that allow him to do what he does, and he's as true as it gets. I saw
a photograph that you guys took together with your arms crossed and kind of back to back. I don't know if you remember doing that. But
yeah, it was USA Today. I think we were on the cover of USA Today or something for that.
Wow. Well, I remember I marked that. I was looking at that earlier this morning, and I marked that to show the boys, because I say boys. My youngest is 21, my oldest is 24, and like I remember my little sister when we were growing up. She loved Leif Garrett. Some teeny bopper guy. She just, posters of him, and I would tease her about it. But it was funny when my boys were like, I don't know, 17, 19, 18, 16, around in there. They were about you like my sister was about Leif Garrett. It was like, they're looking like, hey, look, Eva got a moose. Hey, look, Eva got a bear. Oh, people are giving her grief about this bear. Listen,
yes, they did. I needed your boys there for backup. I needed some backup.
Well, they were giving it to you. I'm gonna say this. But it's so funny talking to you because I know your dad, and my boys are like really excited that we're doing this. And so how do you describe the lifestyle that you promote? Because you're eating well, you're exercising, you have your own kind of lifestyle. How do you describe this?
The buckets that I put it into are family, outdoor, health, and home. And basically those are the things, God over everything, but then my family is everything to me. I have 2 little kids, my husband, my dad, and health, because it's about, we live the outdoor lifestyle as far as hunting and all that, but we want our bodies to be strong. And so it's a year-round activity. It's 365 days a year preparing, I would say, for hunting season, but just staying in like a healthy mindset, healthy body. I love home and keep gathering and hosting and just bringing people together. And so I've created a brand. It's called Eva & Co. And it's around outdoor elements inspired by the outdoors, putting them in your home and just making it feel welcome. I think I might have missed one, but basically just, we try to eat healthy, be healthy, believe in God, love our family, hunt for our own meat, and just do it in a positive way. It's almost like the thing that is not that cool to do in the media and the mainstream is love and get along with people and just support and respect each other. But that is how I was raised, and I've married an amazing husband, and now we get to be part of the outdoor industry and still very much promote the outdoor industry, promote hunting, promote field to table, wild game, all that, but do it. What my goal was growing up in the straight endemic hunting industry. Once I got a little bit older, had kids, got married, I realized there's a lot of people out there that I think I could speak to that wouldn't be intimidated by me, because I don't look like the traditional, middle-aged man hunter, which is sort of the stereotype of hunting. And I was a professional dancer or competitive dancer. And, I a lot more than just the hunting side. So I really try to reach out to those other people and say, this is what it's about. This is what hunting's about in the outdoor space. It's not scary. It's actually very healthy for you and your family. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's that's really, I mean, that was a very long description of what I do, but that's sort of the message, the overall message that I try to share. And I've been lucky to have a platform for the last decade and a half now, which is crazy, on social media. And still people seem to still listen and be there. So I'll keep talking to them.
Yeah, yeah. And I just, we're going to put the links to all your things on the show notes. And I'll say, now tell me, how old are your children?
I have a almost 7-year-old daughter, Lenny Bo, and my son is Boone. He's 4.
Wow. Good names. Good names.
Well, Lenny is named after my grandpa Len. I don't know if you ever watched the episodes. I don't even think we said it on here so far. I grew up, the reason I started hunting was because my dad had hunting TV shows. We kind of just glossed over that fact. My dad had TV shows. If people have watched this podcast, I'm sure they would have heard about that. But so on the show, I would hunt. My dad was the host. We would bring my grandfathers on, and the two of them would hunt. And they were Hal and Len, my 2 grandpas, and they were hilarious. And I was very close to my grandpa Len. So Lenny is named after him. And then Boone, my son, is named after like Boone and Crockett. And we actually have, our dog's name is Crockett. So we have a Boone and a Crockett in our family.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Do either of them getting interested in?
They both are very interested. Lenny, so the 7-year-old girl, she now shoots a bow, like an actual compound bow, and she loves it. And she will come and ask me to shoot with her, and I'll be busy, life gets busy, working, cooking, whatever. And she'll come and when I'm in the middle of something and be like, can we go shoot? And I mean, all I want to be is like, no, I'm busy. But the fact that she wants to shoot with me, I'm like literally drop whatever I'm doing, turn off the stove, whatever, and go outside and we shoot. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever experienced, seeing your child. And she looks and acts like me kind of when I was little, and she is so into it and she's confident, just a great shot. But she has a very soft heart. So we're kind of playing it very gentle with her because I'm the same. The reason I didn't hunt when I was younger is because I had a very soft heart, and thank goodness my parents never pushed me into it. My dad never forced me to hunt, and that's why I came around to it. So I think Lenny will do it, and she really understands the field to table aspect. So we talk about our meat when we're eating it. We have a moose over our fireplace, an elk in our bedroom, and we'll say, oh, that moose is what we're eating, or that elk is what is in this hamburger. And so she understands that. So I think that linking those together makes a big difference for kids when you're trying to pass it down, because it's a fuzzy animal in their head. It takes a minute for them to get that. But and Boone, our son, is a wild man, and I'm sure he will hunt, but he's 4 and he should not be around firearms at this age. He shoots his little suction cup bow almost every day, and he loves it. And right now we have 15 acres, and he drives his Jeep all through the woods and gets it into the creek and comes walking back to the house saying, I lost my Jeep. He'll be a hunter. He's just a little young right now.
I think shooting a bow is. I told a friend of mine not too long ago who's a golfer, and I said, now you hunt, don't you? He said, occasionally. I love being out. And I said, and he was complaining about how long golf took. And it's just hard to get to the golf course, and then 4 hours when you're there, and then, clean all the stuff. And I said, dude, you ought to shoot a bow. He said, what do you mean? I said, it has everything golf has. It doesn't take the time, and you can expand it. You can go hunting with it, or you can, because, to really get good, as you know, to really get good at a bow, you don't stand there and shoot for an hour. You're shooting 6 or 7 shots every day. And, so that because you're, or at least we are shooting a bow to hunt. And so, you're not going to be up in a tree with that tired feeling you hadn't shot 100 shots. And so
it's so true. And the archery is something that every time I do it, it's kind of like golf in a way. It's kind of humbling, because when you get there and you think you're doing good, and then suddenly you're just some weird shot happens and you're back to, wait a minute, what just happened? But it takes so much focus, and I think the world right now, a lot of people could probably use more of that in their life, myself included, that everything's crazy and busy and my brain's always doing 100 things at once. But when you're shooting a bow, you have no choice but to only be doing one thing. Like you are thinking about your setup and thinking about the pin and thinking about all that and your breath. And if you don't, you're probably not going to make a very good shot, especially if you start shooting a little further. But archery, I mean, exactly what you're saying. That is another thing that I think is the greatest. I think it's great for kids. I also think even if you're not a hunter, because so many people, maybe they're not ready to hunt, but to go pick up a bow, go to your local archery shop, get dialed in and learn how to shoot. I've never met someone that didn't have the biggest smile on their face after doing that. And it's a great hobby. You can do it with barely any space. I mean, you just have to be careful because it's a weapon, but I think it's a great thing and a great thing to do also with your spouse. I always try to get women and girlfriends that don't hunt to be like, well, what about shooting a bow with your boyfriend or husband? Because that's something that Tim and I love doing that. We always get competitive. It turns into a whole thing. And then
who's better?
Tim's better. I hate to admit it. Although we used to have a TV show for Outdoor Channel called My Outdoor Family. And on camera, I beat him in a competition. And I'm going to tell you he was like, no, it didn't really count. I'm like, oh no, it was on camera. But no, he is a better shot. But we can shoot pretty similar if I'm focused. He shoots a little more than I do, but yeah, we get out there. Fun.
I always laugh at husband and wife competitions, especially when somebody is well known. And Nancy Lopez is a good friend of mine, the golfer, and I watched Nancy. Well, now her husband is a great golfer. Okay, he's a great golfer, and if he could keep his mouth shut, he could beat Nancy, because when they go to play golf, she's just out playing with her husband. But when he gets a couple of strokes up, he's just like, yeah, I got you now. I'm going to do it. And I'm like, dude, keep your mouth shut. Because he talks and she turns into Nancy Lopez and then just crushes him, because she can dial in mentally. Oh, my God.
That's actually the problem with Tim and I, is that it's almost the opposite problem, that he was a professional hockey player. And I mean, he can have ice in his veins when he needs to. Like, he can shut it off and he is focused. And I would say, like, target shooting, we're pretty similar. Like, he'll win sometimes, I'll win sometimes. It kind of goes back and forth. But when we're in like a hunting situation and I am about to black out and I'm at full draw and I feel like my heart's falling out of my chest, and I've been in situations where full draw at a deer and the deer needed to take a step or something, and I could feel the dark, like the black coming up. Like I was going to actually black out in the stand. And I said, he has to take a step and I need to shoot or I'm going to fall in full draw, like off my chair. And Tim, my husband, is so calm. Like, it's like nothing is happening. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that. So that's where we differ, because he just has that professional hockey, can keep it under control. When it's over, he gets excited. But I, unfortunately, get excited in the wrong timing, like when I should be calm. But I'm working on it. I think I'm going to work on it for the rest of my life. I think it's more of a personality thing of certain people are just very calm in nature, and it's not me.
Now, here's one thing that I would really like to ask you, and this, I'm not trapping you. I'm on your side here, but I feel like just for the sake of viewers, I got to give you the opportunity to. You mentioned a while back, you didn't shoot, your warm and fuzzy animals, and then now you understand. Go into some detail on that. What do you understand?
Okay. So that was a hard one for me. Again, I was not the little kid that just wanted to go shoot everything and whatever. If anything, I raised bunnies and I was like a very soft-hearted, loved animals. I mean, but the thing is, hunters love animals. It was just a little bit of a disconnect, and it makes sense because on paper it is a little bit confusing until you get to speak to someone who is used to hunting and in part of this world. So part of the thing was, if I'm going to eat meat, like I said, I want to know where the meat comes from. That's just a straight, I don't want to buy it. I mean, and now there'll be times when we buy something, but for the most part, we get it ourselves. And that was just a baseline for me. Now that I have kids and I'm feeding them, it's even more of a baseline that I just really want. I don't want all the hormones and all the stuff. The other thing was just the conservation element. So the taxes on ammo and guns and licenses and tags and all that money, we're hunters as a whole, we raise more money for conservation than any group on earth, including all the groups that think they're saving the earth. And so hunters are actually the ones saving the animals and saving the different habitats and wildlife management through the taxes and conservation funds. So when you're doing that, well, yes, you're shooting maybe one deer. If you even get the deer, you're putting money towards habitats that are then saving all kinds of animals. So that's part of it as well. I think just, yeah, I mean, it's a lifestyle as well, that it's something that's healthy. It's something that you're outdoors. You're often with your family, with your father, with your mother, with your brother, with aunts, uncles, whoever it is that hunts. You're getting exercise generally. You have to practice, like we said. It's just a whole well-rounded thing that gets you out from in front of a screen, in front of a computer, in front of the TV, like a lot of kids are doing. And I would 1,000 times rather have my kids out there shooting bows and climbing up trees and watching for deer than the alternatives like Xbox or whatever is cool now with kids. I don't know. My kids don't have that stuff, but it's just a full lifestyle that you can live that is, in my mind, something to be very proud of. And while there are elements that I still, and even after having kids, it's not, the actual shot is not my favorite. That's the least favorite. Actually, like, getting the animal is not my favorite. It's the meat that you get from the animal. It's the experience leading up to that. It's the adventure. It's the challenge. It's the fact you have to focus, and mentally it puts you in uncomfortable situations that you have to push through and be out of your element and out of your comfort zone. And honestly, I mean, you live in the States too. I live in the States, and like, very rarely am I out of my comfort zone. If I want something, I'm on my computer and it's at my house in an hour. If I don't want something, I put it in the giveaway and replace it. And I get this and do this and get coffee at like drive through. And it's nice to go back and go out of your comfort zone again and remember that we're so much stronger than what we feel like we are sometimes. We're able to do so much more than what our bodies sometimes tell us that we can do. And really all those lessons are from hunting. So without hunting, there'd be a big chunk of my soul and heart that would not be the same as they are right now.
I agree. And as you said that, I was kind of comparing my feelings to what you're saying, and I thought, yep, the shot is my least favorite part of the thing too. I think I never really thought about this, but I think our greatest pleasure as a family is eating the game and knowing where it came from, and sometimes recounting the trip as we're, and I love, I've gotten to a point in my life where, a buddy and I, the way we put it is, because deer hunting, we don't shoot very much anymore. I carry a big camera with me, and I shot the biggest buck of my life a couple of years ago, and it had been a couple of years since I'd pulled the trigger on a deer, and then it's been a couple of years since. And so the way we put it is, I'm just not that mad at him anymore, and a lot of it has to do with how much we enjoy watching them. Some of it has to do with when I'm hunting by myself and my boys aren't there to drag it out and clean it.
Yeah, that's probably part of it too.
But it's funny to me, or I don't know if funny's the right word, but odd how many people will say to me, I can't believe you'd shoot that animal. I can't believe, here's that animal minding his own business, and you're gonna shoot that animal. I think people have a real Nature Channel, Disney view of an animal's life, of an animal's real reality, their life. And I told a guy this one time, I said, look, so you love animals? He said, I do. And I said, you love deer? And he said, yeah. I said, even the ones that are eating your flowers, right? And he said, right, I'd love those. And I said, okay, so let's just assume that God appears to you and he mentions the name of your best friend. And he says, now, here's the thing. Well, your best friend, your best friend is going to die. Now, we all know that because you're going to die, they're going to die. Everybody's going to die. But your best friend is going to die, and I'm going to tell you when. Well, this is what God's saying to this guy, right? I'm going to tell you when your best friend's going to die. It's going to be at 4:37 in the afternoon in the middle of November, actually on the 19th. And here's the thing. He's not going to know the date or the time or anything about it, but you're the one who gets to decide how he dies. You get to tell me. And here's the different ways that he could die. He could get hit by a car and then crawl off into the brush and linger for a day and die. He could starve to death. He could get a disease, and if you want him to die that way, we'll give him a disease. But there's no medicine, no pain medicine, anything like that. He could get weak and get attacked by another animal. And if that happens, they're probably going to be eating him while he's alive. Or we could slip up behind him and shoot him in the head, and he'll never know what hit him. So it's your friend. How do you want him to die? And, the reason I put that forth is because that's the only way animals die.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I actually never really think about it quite like that, but it's true. I mean, it is. And it's also almost in the same exact situation that if you're sitting there eating a steak at your dinner table and say it was a moose steak from the moose on above the fireplace that then you talk about and you appreciate that life and you 6 months, a year later, you're still talking about this one animal. When's the last time you were cutting into a beef steak and talking about the cow it came from and appreciating that? Like, I mean, I know, whatever, does that matter if you're talking about it? I don't know if it does, but you're appreciating if someone passes away and you still think about them and appreciate them. I mean, that's keeping them in their souls there and alive and giving them a little bit more justice, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that people don't like it. I think because the media's turned it into Bambi and all those things. And it's hard because I think people think they're doing the right thing. Everyone thinks they're representing what's good. But when you actually look at the facts and you start telling them a little bit more, and sometimes it's hard because I think hunters can be as a whole sometimes a little too aggressive on like, well, blood and hunt and whatever. Like, I don't want to shock you. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable because I hunt or because I'm sharing about it. I actually genuinely think it's wonderful in that if you learned a little bit more, Joe next door, you might think it's something that you would consider doing, or at the very least, at least understand and appreciate when other people do it. That's all that I really care about. I don't care if you do it or if you don't do it, but I don't want you to think and say what I'm doing is wrong because I know it's not wrong. And that's sort of the whole premise. I think hunters have been fighting that since the beginning of time. And I just sort of fell in a time when it's still very much there. Although, I don't know, sometimes I feel like we're making a little bit of progress and then the next day it's back again. Something happens or something comes out. But I think hunters in general are just doing such great things and living such a great way of life. And I really hope it comes a little bit more back to that type of thing. But at the same time, I mean, farmers are wonderful. We love farms. We love farmers. There's great farmers out there too. It's just as far as our meat goes, my family, we really enjoy having moose and elk in the freezer. Yeah, us too. Eva, how can we help you? How can our viewers, how can we help you? How can I help you? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just happy to be on here and meeting you. My dad said wonderful things about you. And I was visiting him when he did your podcast, and he came to dinner going, "Oh, you need to learn more about Andy. That's such a cool guy." That's pretty hard to impress. So I was like, all right. But no, my dad's book is out right now, and I think that's a really cool thing. We talked about it, Call Me Hunter. It's just a great read. It's very similar style to kind of the Da Vinci Code, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. It kind of takes you for twists and turns. And what's really cool about it is, while it's not an autobiography in any way, there's all these characters woven through the story. And you might not know it just because you didn't grow up with my dad, but the characters, each one of them is an element of my dad. So his personality is actually, and his personal stories are all woven through the book, but through these other characters. So I'm reading it, and he's these people, but a bunch of people. It's like he has a bunch of personalities, which again makes me kind of question my dad and his sanity. But it was, so that book is great. I have my site. I'm on social media all the time, just Eva Shockey. I have Eva & Co., which is a marketplace that has indoor home and decor that's inspired by the outdoors. And we create things with antlers and things that make your home feel comfortable and welcoming, and that reminds you of the outdoors, and just from all my years and time in the outdoors. And I'm just on social media sharing my life every single day with my family and just living that lifestyle we've been talking about.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, and we will put all those links on our show notes, including let's just make sure we put Call Me Hunter on there too, and Eva's book, Taking Aim. We'll put a link to that on there. And listen, let's keep up. We'd love to have you back. And
I need to meet your sons, because I guess they're like the whole reason that we're doing this.
I know it. We've got to do that. I've got to introduce you to my sons at some time. But listen, tell me, I am excited about this. I'm excited about the message that you brought today. And so I'm looking forward to meeting your husband too.
He is a very cool guy. Him and my dad get along very, very well. They understand each other. Tim's like my husband Tim is quieter, but extremely smart. He's now a developer. So he moved into real estate, which is a lot of what the hockey guys do, because he grew up, once he signed in the NHL, started buying and selling. And so he's a developer now, but he treats it kind of like a hockey game, honestly, about strategy and trying to figure stuff out. Loves to hunt. As soon as I met him, I was my dad's hunting buddy. Like, it was just me and my dad, and that was so fun and so great. And then my husband came into the picture, and suddenly I'm in the back seat, or like, I'm not invited on the hunt, and they're going on the hunt. So I'm not really sure. Not really sure if I thought that out very well. But yeah, he's wonderful. He's great. He was just on a hunt in Kansas last week, and yeah, he has some pretty cool stories. I mean, he played in the NHL, knows all the old hockey guys, and he has some good stories of his own.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Eva. We appreciate so much you being here, and want you back, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was so nice to meet you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you. Seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Armadillo jerky for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by Bait and Blasters. Friends, are you tired of your fishing lures being snubbed like a wallflower at the school dance? Fed up with deer turning their noses up at your game calls like they're critics at a food festival? Introducing Bait and Blasters, the revolutionary gadget that guarantees a whopper of a story for every trip, whether you actually connect or not. Button 1. Press it to instantly fabricate the sound of a monstrous fish on your line. It's the Real Big Fish button, ensuring your credibility at the bait shop remains as unsinkable as a rubber duck in a bathtub. Button 2. For the hunting enthusiasts, the Buck Wild button. One push sends out a majestic stag call, mixed with the subtle undertone of a challenge. It's like telling every elk in the forest, your antlers may be big, but I just called checkmate. Button 3. And for those long waits in the blind or by the water when your buddy won't stop recounting the same old tales, the nod and snort gives it the perfect grunt of approval, followed by a knowing, yep, and ends with the all-too-critical snort of laughter. It says, I'm the listener of the year, while you're mentally listening your sandwich toppings for upcoming lunch. Bait and blasters, why leave your outdoor success to chance or your patience to the test? Check out your ultimate hunting and fishing sidekick at baitandblasters.com. Bait and Blasters, snag, bag, and brag every time.